Octopath Traveler is a game I wish I could like. It has a classic RPG setting, amazing music, and a novel idea. Play the story your way. Choose your starting character, travel where you want, and recruit who you want. The trouble is, the game struggles for reasons to support its ideas. I started the game as Therion, because I like rogues. I think they're cool. His story was interesting. He's a master thief who had a fallout with the only friend he's ever had. This causes him to be more reclusive to people. He's then tricked by aristocrats to steal back what was stolen from them, having a fool's bangle put on his arm. This bangle lets everybody know he's a thief. Now, this bangle doesn't affect gameplay or conversations with NPCs, and I don't see why he can't remove it, but it's a fun start to his roguish adventures. Now, to see the rest of Therion's stories, I have to go through 10 unrelated character chapters to find out what happens next. Wait, what the fuck? Yes, to get to the next part of your character's adventure, you have to go through everybody else's chapters, even if you think they're not interesting. Each of the 8 characters in this game has 4 chapters, and while you may want to beeline it to your favorite characters, the level gap between each character's chapter is so large that your options are to grind or go through everybody else's current chapter before advancing. That, and I guess you need to complete everybody's stories before getting to the final chapter. Going through everybody's stories wouldn't be so bad if some of the characters weren't so boring. Jeez. Here's a roll call of my favorite characters overall from best to worst. Therion the Thief. I like thieves, and his story so far is one of my favorites. Tressa the Merchant. She loots corpses, is adorable, and will murder people who practice poor merchanting. Primrose the Dancer. In combat, she's kinda mostly throwing up buffs, but her storyline is dark and sad and has a very unusual adult tone that I can appreciate. Alfin the Apothecary. Really strong all-arounder, able to deal massive damage to enemies and mix potions for the party. I enjoy his chipper attitude and also when he shifts gears when he gets really pissed. Hanat the Hunter. Captures animals, yes, like Pokemon. As weird as her dialogue and her story is, I find her connection to her master is pretty heartwarming at times. The Cleric Lady. Generic healer of the church. Her character traits are being a nun. Next is Ulbrich, the Knight, who doesn't know what his occupation is about. And lastly, the book guy, Cyrus. Yeah, it's Cyrus. I didn't have to look that up or anything. He's a scholar mage, and he wants to find a book. As you might be able to tell, the characters and their story can vary from pretty good to outright embarrassing. Now, you can like and dislike characters and stories that they come with in this game, but there are some characters that I believe are just objectively poorly written. Ulbrich is a man who has as much depth and personalities as a sack of potatoes, and the only way I can describe how boring his story and character are is by summarizing it all up as this. I'm the strongest warrior in the whole kingdom. Well, there goes my kingdom. Boy, I wish I could find the guy who did this in about 15 years. Ah, I found you. Why did you do this? Your king was a dick. Also, there's an even more stronger, evil guy than me who plotted out this whole thing. Oh, well, I guess I'll go kill him instead. Yeah, sure, I guess. Hey, did you know that knights protect people? We're not supposed to murder our fellow countrymen? No, it turns out we were supposed to protect them. And that took you 30 years of knighthood to find out. Yeah. That's awesome. Hey, alright. To the same point, Ophelia isn't any better. Oh, that's her name. That's the cleric's name. I forgot about that. She just hangs out with young boys and teaches them life lessons. So some of the cast has very basic stories or flimsy reasons for traveling the land at all, with Therion, Primrosa, and actually Ophelia being the ones that have a tangible reason for going out on an adventure, while the others just kinda decide to leave their hometown because they can. I shouldn't be so bored with some of these characters that I want to skip a good amount of their story or be able to plot out the characters' story beats based on their 3-paragraph introduction. Another thing that I can't really wrap my head around is that this party of 8 characters doesn't interact with each other in any meaningful way. If Hanat gets betrayed by a loved one, or Ulbrich finds out that the empire they were working for the whole time is evil, no other party member will appear in that scene to offer any type of support. They won't even show up at all. Sure, the other characters may have small dialogue skits talking about how they've observed the scene, but that seems a little sloppy. So, what are the other party members doing while the chapter character is going on and about their adventure? Are they hanging out at the tavern? Are they waiting for a boss fight? Are all the characters going on their own individual chapter at once and they meet up at the tavern and talk about it? Or is it some cool, like, non-linear narrative that has all events occur at once and separately at the same time? Are these characters caught up in some type of continuum shift, a time loop, a chrono trigger? Nah, I'm just thinking about it too much. Let's go and beat up some bad guys. That'll be fun as shit. The combat's a fun, simplified version of the Bravely Default system. On each turn, you gain a charge that you can use to buff one of your attacks. Enemies also have a guard that you can break by exploiting its weakness. Now, hitting a foe with its weakness won't cause more damage, but it'll reduce the opponent's guard counter. Breaking it will cause your attacks to do about 50% more damage, along with your foe being unable to act for a turn. This can have an engaging back and forth between your characters and a boss. You have to survive the boss's crazy tactics and buff up your party, so when you have a small opportunity to break a boss's guard, you can really put the hurt on them. This would be all fun and exciting if the boss had any type of strategy, but pretty much every single boss I've fought is the same thing. It's one big guy with two lackeys. The boss has no interesting strategy except swinging really hard and sometimes messing with his guard points, which you're already focusing on so it doesn't change the flow of battle. Every boss that I've fought, I've used the same strategy. Break its guard by exploiting its weakness and then just swing really, really hard when its guard is down. The weird thing is that this is the company behind Bravely Default and Final Fantasy. They've made bosses that lack out your buttons so you only have certain options available to you. They've made bosses that throw powerful whirlwinds where you have to jump into a naked lady to stop it. That's true, look it up, Final Fantasy IV. A boss that will slowly drag your unconscious party members into a void, removing them from the fight. It's just that I expected more with these developers, but most of the bosses aren't even as complex as the first fights in Final Fantasy IV, 6, and 7, and that just boiled down to don't attack when the boss is in its counter stance. While I don't think this game is terrible, it could do a lot better than it is right now. I really expected more from the developers, but if you're looking for an RPG on the Switch, I would definitely recommend this over Xenoblade 2. Because that game's just raw ass.